Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
It's a really good time to get into the trades skills, anything, but yeah, especially with that electric vehicle plant coming. Definitely, it's awesome.
They didn't have the same clothing as the white officers had. They had no guns at all, nothing to protect themselves. They worked hard, you know, and they had to put up with this discrimination.
It's so special for Muslims to come around and have a lot of fun with their families and children, and they have some kind of celebrating, and it's so much fun.
Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we start by looking to Windsor's future, and it's looking electric. We know that an EV battery plant will soon be home here. So as a result, attention is turning to make the city more EV friendly. Today, the federal labor minister was in Windsor. His attention was on EV charging stations, but the push to a green economy will require green workers. And our Jacob Barker is looking into where those workers can be found, and he joins me now live right next to a charging station there. So Jacob, what did you find out?
Yeah, Kat, there are definitely workers here in the Windsor-Essex area that are eager to get into EVs and help build things like this. I swung by Unifor 444's Union Hall earlier today, where there were some women learning about the skilled trades. They know about the shift to EV and they want to be part of it. This assignment is to wire up a light switch, the beginning of what could be a bright future for this group.
This is the next best thing to do for my career, for myself as a woman, and for the rest of the world too, you know.
These women are preparing for an industrial millwright pre-apprenticeship program, a new direction. For Poki Makwati, who used to work in a call center, this is day one. What's your knowledge right now of electronics?
Zero. I am learning. I am excited to expert. Well, I just don't know anything about electronics, but I'm excited because it's something new that I can learn.
But she knows there's a shortage of workers in the skilled trades, and electrical work is something she is interested in. She would like to be part of the EV revolution.
I'm not creating anything with my hands, so I feel like we're not evolving much as human beings. And this EV stuff is coming into Windsor. I'm so excited about it because it makes me as a human being leave my footprint in this EV.
The federal minister of labor was in Tecumseh today, touting some success in their goal of building out charging stations. 144 will be going into 35 locations around Windsor-Essex. The $1.7 million in federal funding for the project, expected to last 2 years, was allocated in about 3 months. With the demand high for infrastructure like that and 2,500 jobs coming to the battery plant, workers will be needed.
I think the challenge is always out there. If you stop looking for the best people, then you're going to fall behind. So you can call it a shortage or you can call it constant demand, but we're always looking for good people.
Speaking specifically to women in the skilled trades, actually, because that's something that we need to increase. You know, we talk an awful lot about inclusion, and inclusion's really important. I always say inclusion's really important because it's only when you include everybody that you get the best people.
Jennifer Holland has worked in the trades before on a galvanizing line, but more recently she's worked with the elderly. Her father and brother both work in the field. She's looking to get into it too. She sees her future back in the trades as well, perhaps one day in the world of EVs.
Our whole family was super excited to hear when the electric vehicle plant was coming to Windsor. That's huge news for everybody in Windsor. Like, that's amazing opportunity, going to bring lots of awesome jobs, and just it's super exciting. I can't wait. I hope I have an opportunity to work there. I hope all of these ladies do.
Now, Kat, only 3% of skilled trades workers in the province of Ontario are women. So it's courses like these that can do big things to help fill that gap. And one thing about that course is that it's free, and it also does lead to a paid placement. Katerina.
Thanks for that, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker reporting live for us tonight. A strike deadline for Via Rail workers has been pushed back to 8 p.m. Eastern Time today. Unifor, the union representing more than 2,000 Via Rail workers, gave 72-hour strike notice on Friday. Employees could walk off the job if a deal is not reached soon, potentially suspending train service across the country, including in and out of Windsor. Via Rail and the union are negotiating a new contract for employees, including maintenance workers and customer service staff. Job security is reportedly the main issue. An apology from the Prime Minister is having an impact on local families. Over the weekend, Justin Trudeau apologized for the anti-Black racism experienced by the No. 2 Construction Battalion, Canada's only all-Black unit to serve in the First World War, many of whom were from Windsor, Essex.
For failing to honor and commemorate the contributions of the members of No. 2 Construction Battalion and their descendants, for the blatant anti-Black hate and systemic racism that denied these men dignity in life and in death. We are sorry.
Hundreds of Black men were turned away from serving in 1914 because of their color. And it was only after 2 years of protests that the segregated, non-combat, Nova Scotia-based battalion was formed. Despite their important contributions, they endured deplorable conditions. And 3 of the men who enlisted were relatives of the vice president of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Barbara Porter was in Nova Scotia for the apology, along with other descendants. She says she was moved by the words and hopes to see actions follow.
I took the Prime Minister at his word. He seems sincere in his apology, because that's something that you look for, you know. He realizes that there's been wrong done. And it's not only about this, but about Black history in general. And he seems like he wants to fix it. We'll see how that goes, you know. But I was moved to tears a few times. There was a couple of speakers that really moved me to tears. These are men that fought the country to fight for their country. They wanted to enlist. What they thought is that if they enlisted and they fought for the war, then people would respect them. Whites would respect them, treat them as equals or something, because they'd be in uniform. They'd be fighting for the same thing. And they weren't. They didn't want them in the war. They said it was a white man's war. They were turned away until their casualty count started to go up. And then all of a sudden they allowed Blacks in. So this is something that really needs to be taught and learned about. It's very important that people know that we were there, not only in this war of 1812, and 100, years before this war. We were there fighting for this country. And you don't see it. You see war movies on television, you don't see any Blacks in war movies. I mean, nowadays you do, but when I was growing up, you didn't, And I've often wondered, well, where were we at, But we were there.
Moving forward, she'd like to see more investment in Black communities and Black history education. Plus, she'd also like to see a monument dedicated to the No. 2 Construction Battalion in Windsor's Memorial Park. The Rogers outage on Friday caused a range of problems for people, including for those who need emergency services. Ithel Musa has a story of what happened to one woman in southwestern Ontario.
Shane Eby says his father Greg and Aunt Linda were running errands on Friday in downtown Hamilton when his aunt began to feel unwell. He said it didn't take long for his father to realize something was very wrong.
My father went back into the bank and asked the security guard for help. And then the security guard came out to help, but both the security guard and my father realized they needed more help.
Shane Eby says his father asked people in the bank's parking lot to call 911 for him, but they couldn't connect. So he started approaching people on the street, but their cell phones didn't work either.
She was in distress. And he had to keep leaving her to try to get help. And it took some time, and he wasn't able to actually connect with anyone who had a functioning cell phone.
Eby says his aunt was eventually taken to hospital by emergency services, but precious time was wasted trying to contact them. She later died in hospital from a brain aneurysm.
Having a connection keeps people alive. And I imagine a lot of people are questioning whether that's actually available right now. and how safe they might be.
According to Rogers' terms of service, access to 911 may not function correctly or at all in the event of a network outage or power failure. And while there is a way to get around that on cell phones, not everyone knows it.
Removing your SIM card, you're no longer a subscriber of any network. You don't have a phone number or anything like that. Still lets you dial 911 anywhere.
Shane Eby says that's critical information other Canadians should know in case of an emergency.
That might be just a good public service announcement that the telecom can share.
Idil Musa, CBC News, Hamilton.
Turning now to international news, the January 6th committee is back at work tomorrow in Washington. And at some point, they're hoping to speak to a witness they've wanted to talk to since the hearings began, Steve Bannon. Here's Katie Simpson on what lawmakers would like to learn about from the close ally of Donald Trump.
Lawmakers have been trying to question Steve Bannon for months. They want to know what was going on behind the scenes inside the White House and in and amongst a key group of allies helping Donald Trump try to cling on to power. Now, Steve Bannon was present at a number of key meetings in that crucial time period between Election Day and in the lead up to January 6th. They also want to explore any ties that might exist between far-right extremist groups, what went on in the Capitol, and the White House. Now, Bannon has resisted for months this invitation to testify, and he's actually facing contempt of Congress charges. He could face up to 2 years in prison and $100,000 in fines. Some analysts say this willingness to testify is one effort to avoid any sort of penalties there. The other sort of reasoning as to why Steve Bannon might be cooperative now is, according to the New York Times, they say that Donald Trump is reportedly upset that his most vocal, most supportive allies have not been defending him the way he wants to be defended, and that by testifying with Trump's blessing, this might give him some sort of forum to defend himself or have his allies defend him. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
The race is on to succeed Boris Johnson. The British Prime Minister was forced to step down last week after multiple scandals followed by a revolt within his own government. Now, as nearly a dozen candidates jostle to replace him, the Tories are looking for someone who can unite the Conservative Party. Ashley Burke has more.
They're off to the races, candidates doing media interviews, releasing promotional videos, making their pitch about why they should replace Boris Johnson. Johnson was filmed this morning touring a biomedical facility, and during that he suggested that he doesn't plan on endorsing any particular candidate. He had been asked if he felt betrayed by his MPs for turning on him.
I don't want to say any more about all that. There's a contest underway and that must happen, and I wouldn't want to damage anybody's chances by offering my support. I just have to get on. I have to get on, and in the last few days and weeks.
Some big names to watch for in the leadership race: Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi, along with 2 senior ministers who resigned last week, which led to Johnson's unraveling. Rishi Sunak, the other, Sajid Javid. Central to many of their pitches is a promise to cut taxes.
The sooner there is stability, the better.
Canada's High Commissioner to the UK said it's business as usual despite the dramatic ousting of Johnson, and it won't affect Canada's negotiations on the free trade agreement. He hopes a new leader is appointed quickly.
We are both very strong, very mature democracies that are very familiar with each other. So whatever the other side might do, Canada will be able to cope with it and cope with it very well.
By the end of next week, we're expected to learn who the 2 final candidates are vying to replace Johnson. Ashley Burke, CBC News, London.
Turning back now to local news, more than 100 families have fled Ukraine for Windsor, Essex. Many showing up with just a backpack, no secured work, and little knowledge of English. A group called Windsor Essex Supporting Ukrainian Newcomers is on standby to assist many of them. It's a volunteer group that came together when the war first began in February. The group says there's a big demand for translation and transportation.
When they first arrive, they don't know the bus system. They don't know where to pick up bus tickets. In Ukraine, you just put your hand up when you want to be picked up, and then you just tap the driver on the shoulder to stop, and he'll drop you off wherever. So it's been a big adjustment in terms of learning how to get around the city. So our volunteers drive them to places such as the settlement agency, grocery store, wherever else they may need to go.
The group has held a number of fundraisers to help support the Ukrainian newcomers. Petrie says on a personal level, it's led to some unforgettable experiences.
I've got two girls, age 7 and 9, and just this past Sunday, we invited a young couple over with another one of our volunteers, and we had a water gun fight, and it was the most fun time ever. It was nice to see how relaxed the Ukrainian couple was, and you could just feel the pressure being released off their shoulders, knowing that they've got a safe environment around them.
Petrie says it's made her value the Windsor-Essex community more than ever. Windsor's Pride Fest is marking its 30th year this August. And over the years, the celebrations and the crowds have grown exponentially.
Windsor Pride, it started as a small gathering in a parking lot of a pub in Walkerville, with just a handful of people getting together and, saying, hey, let's get this community going. And from there, we move up to today. It's 3 days. We've gone from 100 people to like thousands of people, and like the entertainment, vendors, just the community coming out is just amazing.
While many cities hold their Pride parades in June, Nicholson says they decided in the early 2000s not to compete with other events and festivities, which is why the Windsor Pride Parade is held in August. She says holding the annual event in August gives more space to keep Pride celebrations going. Public boat tours on Pesh Island are back on. The city-run service was put on a 2-year pause because of the pandemic. But now the tours are set to resume starting July 18th. That's a week from today. Registration opens this Wednesday. And the city is encouraging people to book their trips in advance. According to the city, prior to the pandemic in 2019, about 1,300 people took the boat trip to the island. And it costs $7.75 per person round trip, and children under 3 ride for free. Tours are scheduled Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays each week, and they're going to run until October. With that, let's take a live look outside there. Chance of showers tonight with some milder temperatures tomorrow. We'll have a high of 25, and Colette Kennedy will be here right after the break with your forecast. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is here for a look at our weather forecast. Colette, it's really nice to see you. We just came off a wonderful weekend of weather. Like, my goodness, the temperatures, the sunshine. Talk us through the week ahead.
Pretty tremendous, right? Well, it's great to see you, my friend, and I'm happy to be with you tonight and talk about what our weather story is. Now, there's a few little spots where we are going to see some wet weather, including that risk overnight tonight with some thunderstorm activity, but still really comfortable in terms of the temperature story. 29 degrees, 27 Chatham-Kent, Sarnia. You can see 28 degrees. We factor in that humidity, and yes, it pushes us, at least Windsor, to the mid-30s, and elsewhere a little bit sticky, but this is nothing oppressive, nothing unusual, and in fact, we could use a bit more the wet weather coming our way and some heavier downpours, not just southwestern Ontario, but really seeing this throughout much of southern Ontario as a whole. Not much to speak of here yet, but we do see that into the overnight hours as the cold front approaches, that we'll likely see more development back into Michigan State, and then we start to see some of the remnants of those storms rolling through. Right now, the activity is here around Georgian Bay, and you can see all those lightning strikes. Was the risk of some severe weather there and a severe thunderstorm watch that was in play. That has now been lifted. So it's not that the storms aren't strong, but just not meeting that criteria, not strong enough. Showing you some of that activity here back towards the west, really across Lake Michigan. It's got across the state and then eventually be coming in. There'll also be some more development. So between the two things, a few waves, and it's really hit and miss when we have this kind of activity. So some areas locally are going to benefit from some of that rainfall, and elsewhere you're going to stay completely dry. But this kind of pattern carries on as we go through the late evening and into the overnight and early morning, and then we really see things kind of drying up, clearing out. Sun comes back, but just sort of watch for it, because later afternoon, a few isolated showers, just enough instability, a few highly isolated, very light showers could pop up again. So I've put a 30% chance of precipitation into the forecast still for Tuesday, although I think we have a greater chance really as we head into Wednesday for seeing some scattered showers coming back in. Again, pretty light in nature. Overnight tonight, just having a look at what's going on, the temperature's coming down. We are going to see a new air mass moving in behind this cold front, but it's a gentle thing and a gradual thing. So tonight, certainly those temperatures still on the mild side. And tomorrow, I don't think there'll be too many complaining about 27 degrees. A little breezy as the front goes through, but most of that activity is even further to the east in terms of the stronger winds and those gusts. That chance of showers into Wednesday, that'll be the cooler day that we see of the next 5, so that high 25. And then look what happens as we get towards the end of the week. High pressure coming back in. I am going to add a few more clouds as we get into the weekend. But again, another run where maybe it's not the rain that we need, but it certainly is providing some really nice conditions for those who are taking a few days off work, or if you're not and you've got the weekend off, things looking pretty good as we roll in that direction, Katerina.
Yeah, that's not too shabby. Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we're going to take a look at local Eid AlAdha celebrations in person for the first time since before the pandemic. Stay with us. Windsor's Islamic community was happy to be back in person this year to celebrate Eid AlAdha. The yearly holiday marks the conclusion of the Islamic pilgrimage to the Hajj in Mecca. CBC's Jacob Barker was at a local event yesterday to capture all of the festivities.
We really know that sense of appreciation of these types of special moments, and we want to make the most of it. So it's very, very exciting. It is extra special to be able to do this, and we hope that it continues to be extra special in the years to come.
We got so fun here. We have a lot of fun. We come here to play around and have so much fun. I don't know how to explain it, but it's so hard.
Well, yeah, your family gets together, and usually the first Eid would be after 30 days of fasting, and then 3 months after that Eid, it would be the second Eid.
It has been something that I've experienced in the past, but considering the lockdown, it's just something that is something that we were very eager and anxious and excited to have once again.
Honestly, this holiday means a rare time, just complete family celebration, bringing the community together for the first time after COVID. It feels like back to normal and back to happy times as per usual.
How many burgers have you flipped today?
I think right now we're at 300 so far, and we're expecting to do 1,800 today.
1,800 burgers.
Yep, 1,800 burgers and about 1,000 hot dogs.
Is food a big part of today?
Absolutely. Anytime there's a Middle Eastern, Arabic, Muslim, Desi celebration, food is going to be a huge part of it.
For many of these people, I haven't seen them in years. Some of them I haven't met at all, so just being able to meet new people and see how much people have grown, it's really nice. It's really nice.
He's just over a month old and already something of a social media sensation. That is Simba the goat, and Simba has a very distinct look with ears that are 56 centimeters long. That's about 22 inches, and they're still growing. The kid goat now has a special velvet pouch so he can run around without getting tripped up by his ears. Simba's owner is passionate about goat breeding, but his day job is working in air traffic control, which might come in handy if Simba learns to use those ears to take flight. Very much reminiscent of Dumbo, isn't it? That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.